to Zoom, live to the room. Who would have imagined one would have this much electronics in front of one for Dharma teaching? For those of you that were here 7 or 8 minutes ago, I played a song by Kimberly Ransom, who was a member of our community for some years. Passed away 3 months ago now, 2.5 months. And there was a memorial service for her yesterday out in Hillsborough. So, what a good idea to open the door like that. Huh. Good idea, Maggie. Maggie is our wonderful volunteer coordinator. And I'm Robert Beatty. Any of you here for the first time? Please raise your hand if you are. You're not? Oh, good. You can jump over a lot of preliminaries. I have something I wanted to read, which will lead into some of the guidance that I offer and also into what I believe will be a Dharma talk at the end today. This is a traditional teaching from the Buddha. It goes like this. I have it filed under Bahia Gets It. A wanderer, a seeker, a meditator named Bahia stopped the Buddha on the street in Savatthi and said, "Venerable Sir, you are the Shramana, the wandering holy man Gotama. Your Dharma is famous throughout the land. Please teach me that I may understand the truth." The Buddha replied, "We are on alms round, Bahia. This is not the right time. Life is uncertain, Venerable Sir. We never know when we are going to die. Please teach me the Dharma." The dialogue repeats itself 3 times. 3 times over, the Buddha says the same thing, and Bahia responds in the same way. Finally, the Buddha says, "When a Tathagata, a one such gone," that's how he referred to himself. It would be very convenient, wouldn't it, rather than when you're going to speak in a conversation, rather than saying I, substitute the one such gone. It would be awkward. Finally, the Buddha says, when a Tathagata is pressed 3 times, he has to answer, "Listen carefully, Bahia, and attend to what I say. In the seen, there is only the seen. In the heard, there is only the heard. In the sensed, there is only the sensed. In the cognized, there is only the cognized. Thus you should see that indeed there is no thing here. This, Bahia, is how you should train yourself. Since, Bahia, there is for you in the seen only the seen, in the heard only the heard, in the sensed only the sensed, in the cognized only the cognized, and you see that there is no thing here, you will therefore see that indeed there is no thing here. You will see there is no thing there. You will see that you are therefore located neither in the world of this, nor in the world of that, nor in any place betwixt the two. This alone is the end of suffering." Upon hearing these words, Bahia was immediately awakened. Moments later, he was killed by a runaway cow. So he was right, life is uncertain. Later, Bahia was awarded the title of the disciple who understood the teaching most quickly. So, more to be spoken of about that. So, dear friends, let's do something we humans have done now for at least 2,600 years since the Buddha, to take a comfortable upright posture.
Robert, we don't see you on camera.
Oh, thank you. That's very helpful. Ta-da! Oops, you still can't see me on camera with a head. How about that? That's better.
Perfect.
Please let me know if anything else is falling apart in this, okay? So comfortably upright. Before this, we made an intention to gather together to come and practice. It took a lot of effort to get here, didn't it? A lot of deciding all those things you could do on a Sunday morning, but they all somehow were of less importance than this. That's a very unusual decision to make. So we come together to support each other and to support our own practice. To let ourselves be comfortably upright. And perhaps to remind ourselves of the refuges in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Refuge in the Buddha, in that which is awake. In that which knows. And we can make that very complicated. We tend to make it very complicated. Looking for something grand or dramatic or different. But right now, the body is sitting on the cushion or on the floor or in a chair. And you can become aware of the contact and the pressure. How is it that you become aware? Where does that awareness come from? What is it? Can't look directly at it because it is the looker. It is the source, in a way, of the knowing. Refuge in the Buddha. Refuge in the Dharma, in the teachings of the Buddha, not as dogma, but as what they point out. Let us be aware of seeing, or hearing, or breathing. The truths of life are right here in this breath. Things begin and end. And we take refuge in Sangha, in the community of practice, here today. We can definitely be aware of our own body our own presence. And by observation or inference, we can realize that we are not practicing alone. "30 or 40 people here in the Dharma hall, 40 some on Zoom, and who knows how many on Facebook or YouTube. So 100, 120 people sitting with a common interest, which is being here alive in the present moment. And of course, we sit in a long lineage of human beings who have done exactly what we're doing. And what is it that we do with this awareness, with this intention? One time-honored foundational practice is to allow breathing to come to the forefront. To notice the actual sensations of breathing in and breathing out. In the seen Bahiya, only the seen. In the heard, only the heard. In the felt, only the felt. So to notice that there is, in fact, in-breathing and out-breathing. And that's all. No interpretation is necessary, no fancy breathing, no control of breathing. in the practice of mindfulness of breathing. One can attend to the sensations in the chest and abdomen, the whole torso really. Or one can attend at the nostrils, the nose tip, where the air rushes back and forth. Choose whichever one is more predominant. And there's no harm to use them sequentially or in any way you wish, though it's best probably to not be constantly jumping from one to the other. So we are attending to the actual sensations of a body breathing. It's quite specifically not an imagination of the breath, not an amplification of the breath in some way. It's just a human being sitting, breathing, aware of breathing, or more accurately, aware of the sensations created by breathing. Of course, it's probable that the mind will do some wandering into the past and the future, into any one or collection of the 5 hindrances. Is the mind at this moment restless, agitated, worried, grasping somehow? Or is it sleepy and dull and falling asleep and blurry? Is it a mind that wants something? Is it a mind that wants something not, that dislikes what's happening and strikes against the experience? Is it a mind of skeptical doubt? These are not the only categories, of course. There's the whole realm of emotions. Is this a mind that's depressed or anxious or confident, joyful, tranquil? Our task is to be present with the Dharma, with what's true, no matter what we find. in a world in which our value is determined by our activity. This is a radical departure. It's not that we're not active inwardly, but we have a real chance to stop. To stop here, now, in this in-breathing and this out-breathing. in attending to breathing, we've chosen a pretty focusable primary object. We can expand it to include the entire body. You might try to include your feet, toes, legs. You might include the back, the fingers, the hands, the arms. You might include the face, the neck, the shoulders, and the forehead and the eyes. So there's a body that breathes. And it breathes by itself, doesn't it? It doesn't need help. So the body sits here. It comes, this body, with awareness, with consciousness. Each moment of consciousness can contain mindfulness or not. It can be concentrated or not. And so we play our part with aspiring to be present. With noticing the quality of mind. Is it concentrated? Is it restless? With observing the awakening in the midst of wandering. Of all the mysterious things, that's really something, isn't it? One forms the intention to be present with the breath, and then the mind wanders off. That in itself would be pretty stunning. But then in the midst of the wandering mind, there is waking up to the fact of that wandering. Now, how does that happen? How does that happen, and what can we do to potentiate that? Let us explore one other sense door, or an aspect of the sense door. In the realm of Bahia, in the seen there is only the seen, and so on. Here in the Dharma hall, the windows are open. The door is open. There are sounds. Putting aside the breath and taking sound as your primary object. Among the sounds are this voice, episodically, and some other things. In this sound, do you hear a car? We don't hear a car. We hear a particular kind of sound. Car happens in the mind. The Buddha was encouraging Bahiya to stay at the level of bare attention, of hearing the sound. In the hearing, there is only the hearing. Then there'd be another level, which is in the perception, the creation of a car in the mind. There's only perception. In the Dharma hall, there's also temperature. Please notice the warmth and coolness experience of the body. And you can do this at home, but it may not be as pronounced as here. Because here there are rippling coolnesses on some parts of the body. In conventional speaking and perceiving, we would say, well, I feel the wind. Is there really an I that feels something? Is the experience wind or is the experience coolness? Please now let us notice the aliveness of the body as a whole, all the way from the feet to the legs, to the pelvis, to the torso. The fingers and hands and wrists and forearms and upper arm. The shoulders. The neck and the throat, the jaw, the cheeks and the eyes and the forehead. There's something sitting here that is incredibly sensitive. Or it has within it something which is incredibly sensitive. And please now let us bring awareness specifically into the eyes. The eyes as objects, and then notice the intention in mind, and then make the effort to open the eyes. And staying mindful. Something happens. A whole new realm of experience, seeing. Seeing and aware of it. hearing. I don't know if you folks online could hear the birds. Could you? I can't tell what you're doing. So, did you hear birds? Or did you hear sounds? The birds exist in the mind as an imagination. The direct sensed or experience is sound. Interesting, complicated sound. I'm going to whine for a moment and make a declaration. Two, 4, 6, 8 rechargeable batteries all failed. I tried again. I tried to be a responsible steward of the planet, but I'm done. I'm going to buy one of those big packs from Costco and be good. And I'm going to be good for a year or more. And my footprint on the planet will be a little bigger, but this is really too much. God. That's the whine and the declaration. W-H-I-N-E. I didn't even know there was no sound going out to Zoom until somebody put something in the chat. So, certainly first world problems, huh? Announcements. Kendall Summers teaches every first and third Sunday nights. Third is another week away, I guess. She's actually at Cloud Mountain helping teach a retreat with managing a retreat for Kamala Masters and Stephen Armstrong and somebody else. Jim teaches on Monday nights. Gregory's on Wednesdays. Doug Pullen on Thursdays. I am online on Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube each weekday morning at 7. You can find a link to that at robertbeatty.com. It's the easiest way. Our new website is really coming along, by the way. I got a chance to look at it the other day, and whoo boy, it's nice. It's actually a modern website. It looks like websites do now. It isn't just lists of information. And easy to navigate and pretty. Molly, Gregory's wife Molly, is doing that. And I will be on in the mornings until Thursday morning this week. And then on Friday, I am flying to Iceland and Germany, where my friend Frank will pick me up. Frank and I are interesting wave of emotion. We're really brothers. Ruth Dennison, whose picture you saw on the way in, there's another one of her here, our great benefactress and my teacher for 44 years. I knew of him. He'd been going to visit her and spend 2 weeks there at Christmas for 20-some years. He came on as a young person traveling and went to Brighton Bush and bumped into Ruth Dennison. And we may have crossed paths then. But anyway, we didn't know each other. We knew of each other. And then we connected at Ruth's memorial service, and really connected. And he really is like a brother. Interesting emotion. And he's picking me up, and we have a few days together at his place, and we're going to do a little traveling. And then we're co-teaching a retreat in a beautiful retreat center about 2 hours north of Frankfurt in a big forest. And then I'll be back after that. We'll spend a few more days and I'll come back. So in my absence, the other teachers, the PIMC teachers, will be holding down the fort in the mornings. Jim is Mr. Stalwart, solid in the mornings. He'll be helping them and teaching some himself. And also the Sundays will continue. So nothing will be interrupted except my presence. Anything else I should announce? Oh yeah, sure is hard to understand you. Would you speak up, please? You're mumbling, for God's sake. Be Queer Now is tonight at 6:30. In other words, the Queer Affinity Group is at 6:30. It's. I hear there's about 15 people that participate with some regularity, and it's becoming quite a strong group. Okay. Anything else? Oh, more. Oh, thank you. Yes. Wait, we have to have a fanfare for this. Would you like to announce it? Come on up. Come on up, because the people in the other world won't hear you if you.
Oh, okay.
Hang on. I got to re-battery this. It's really a pain. All right, Connie. Whoops. Hang on. It's like loading my magazine. Come stand behind me, okay?
Okay.
So you can see yourself in here.
Okay.
All right, there you go. You might unmask to.
Okay. Okay. So, the Barking Dog Library, which has about 2,000 books on mindfulness, meditation, and Buddhism, is opening today. After several years of being closed, I want to thank and acknowledge Hal for starting the Had for starting the library, and Lisa for putting our library on an online system. And I'll be opening the library on Sundays from 12 to 2 until we decide to just open the doors and people can just come in and out when the center's open. So please come down and check it out.
Yay, thank you, Connie. Maggie, did you wish to make an announcement? Please come up. Here, I'm going to make this. One moment, please. Spotlight. Here, you can see where you are now.
Okay, great, thanks. Morning, Sangha. First, I just want to really acknowledge Connie, because without Connie, we wouldn't have a library that you can actually walk into and point to a book, pull it out, and the number on the book will actually correspond with the number in the system. And it's pretty amazing what she's accomplished and what she's done. So, and it's really cool. We have like this amazing library, and it's right. You just go through this hallway through the living room, and then there's a door at the back, and you open it, and voila, you are there with the knowledge of the Buddha. So I hope everyone takes an opportunity to check it out. And then I would like just also to acknowledge we have what I call the Bodhisattva flower people, and Luba is one of them, and I want to just thank her for the flowers today. And if you are interested in becoming more involved in the Sangha, there are opportunities galore for volunteering. And there's some sign-up sheets in the back, but we are looking for folks to help out on Sunday mornings, to open the center, to greet folks as they come in. At some point, we will once again have tea and coffee and snacks to share once we get the word from the board of directors. And lastly, yes?
Just come over this way a little bit. You're drifting off screen.
I
Are
know.
you? No, that's this way. It's backwards on here. Don't go to. Come back. You have to see yourself. There you go.
Wait, I could be in halo. See, there's a halo. So there are all these different ways, and we're going to be having a gardening maintenance day coming up. And so just look for the PIMC newsletter, and if you're interested in volunteering or finding out more, you can contact me at maggie@portlandinside.org. All right? Thanks so much, and thank you for being here.
Thanks, Maggie. The PIMC newsletter comes out on Mondays. It's actually the digest. And if you're not part of the communication system of PIMC, you can become some. You can join, you can go on the website as it is now, portlandinsight.org, and put yourself on there. We have two lists. There's one which is announcements only, and the other one which is really it's called, what's it called? Connections, I guess. And on Connections, if you want to put something on it, you can, and then everybody gets it too. So it's a communication or conversation sort of setup. All right, Mr. Dalton, would you care to do a little movement with the crowd? So we'll have Jim for a little while, and then I will be sharing some conversation with you. You can see yourself here.
So become aware of our contact with the earth and rock a little bit so that the toes come alive and the heels come alive. We're having trouble finding the outer world, but we're going to join our hands and interlock the fingers. No one can see me, but here we go. Push up and then brush the clouds. So we're kind of opening the rib cage, opening the palms, noticing the breath. How does the body want to breathe when it's moving like this? And then separating and sinking. Interlock the fingers. Stretching like this, finding the center, just pushing up, stretching to the other side, pushing up, releasing, floating down. We can open the stance a little bit, and then draw a bow, like you're drawing a bow and arrow, and then release the hands into the center. Breathe in, and stretch out to the other side, turning the neck, following the extended arm out. During the winter, when we did this warm-up at our abandoned shopping center, which is where I was teaching most of the winter, we would add sinking and creating lots of heat. I don't know if we want to do that today, but do a couple of them. And then walk the toes back into a more upright stance. I don't know if they can see me. They can't see my feet anyway. Okay. Feet parallel, knees soft, shoulders back. Take a few breaths. And then let the arms rise. Press up towards the sky with one hand and press down with the other. Feel the sensations in the shoulders, the arms, the hands. And how does the body want to breathe? Slowly coming back to the center. Pause and let the body breathe. Switch hands. Touching heaven and earth. And finding the center. Separate. We can look away from the upper hand and feel the slight stretch in the neck. Back to the center, breathing. Turn away from the upper hand. Feel the shoulder sockets, elbows, palms, and breathing. Again, stretching, releasing, stretching, releasing. This rhythm takes over. Feels pleasurable in the joints to feel the lubrication, feel the softness as you stretch and release. And then relax the arms. Just move the arms back and forth like you're moving through water. And notice again, how does the body want to breathe? Noticing the sensations in the soles of the feet, the ankles, the knees, the hips. The whole body sweeps together. But we can focus in on just the sensations at the tips of the fingers. Or turn a little bit and feel the sensations in the spine. So we have this laser attention Be focused in on one little area of sensation, or it can be open. Just pause. Be aware of all the bodies around you. If you're at home by yourself, be aware of the space in which you're standing, with your palms open, your chest open to the space around you. So we have this wide angle attention. It's open, spacious. Or we can focus on a particular gesture, sinking, opening to the side, gathering all sorts of sensations throughout the whole body into an out breath and sinking. And pausing, opening the palms again, coming to stillness. Thankful for the time to practice together, for a standing body that has balance and relaxation, alertness, all these different qualities of attention. Softening the shoulders, opening the fingers, softening the knees, grounded in the earth. Okay. One announcement I forgot to remind Robert about is next Saturday I'll be here doing some Qigong and meditation, a little poetry between 9 o'clock and 2 o'clock. On Saturday the 16th. Thank you very much. We'll see you then. And I'll probably be online with some of you in the morning, 7 a.m. each morning this week.
Test 1, 2. I put a little more volume on in here. Is that okay? Is it too loud? No? Okay. Hello, dear friends on Zoom. Hi, Sherry. Sherry's a regular in the mornings, and she lives on Quadra Island up in BC. I saw her a few weeks ago. Well, hi. I just spotted this when I was up there bowing. This acrylic device came. I got them when Ruth died. I bought a bunch of them. Distributed some of her ashes, and there's little bits of Ruth in here, little bits of her earth suit. And I encourage you sometime when you're here, when we're not in this process or after, to take a moment and come look. That I asked the men at the memorial, at the cremation spot, to please don't smash all the ashes, because the routine is they crush them all. But if they don't crush them, there are actually bits of, you can see here, there's bone. It's quite cool. And if you really feel bold, you can take it and turn this a little bit, like this, and being very careful, you can actually see it's quite remarkable what the inside of cremated bone looks like. That's kind of fun, isn't it? So, I'm asking for Ruth's inspiration. There are times when this that sits here, this person that sits here, feels very intelligent and articulate. This is not one of them. I'm beginning to believe that I wouldn't call it long COVID, but I would call it a quality of fatigue that I'm not used to having, kind of like a dullness. Even, I know it's something different because even large doses of caffeine doesn't completely remove it. But there is something I want to say today. I will do my best. Please come to your senses. Please come to the senses, more accurately. Please become aware of the experience that's created by clothing on your body. If you just move around a little bit, you can. I've only been around 2 small children, 2, my own bio kids from birth till 40. That's not true. My stepson Adrian was pretty young when I got, and he had a harder time of what I'm about to say. Kids don't like wearing clothes. They rub, right? They're if it's warm enough, they're an irritation. And we get very, inured, I think is the word. We get very used to having these sensations. And this clothing contact can become a marvelous meditation object. You could be, walking down the street and be aware of your clothing. But is it clothing or is it the sensations caused by clothing? And that's the point that I want to come back to again and again. Similarly, right now, please become aware of seeing. Nothing changed then, except something really changed, didn't it? We add that piece of knowing that sense door is open, and a whole different perceptual world is in play. And let's try a very potent little experiment that we do, not as an experiment, but we do hundreds, maybe thousands of times a day. Within the next 10 or 15 seconds, please form the intention, an activity of mind, and then intentionally close your eyes and keep them closed for 10 or 15 seconds. And then notice the intention to open them again. And then let them open as an experiment. See what happens. No hurry. And do it 2 or 3 times. Now we've done that so many times, it's not particularly shocking, is it? But do you notice what happens? The world disappears. It's one of the realities of teaching, particularly meditation retreats. Meditators become very easy to entertain because for one thing, they're fasting from all the usual things, but also the doors of perception become more precisely attuned, and it's quite possible to get into to spend some long period of time just sitting. Be aware of seeing. Notice how the mind likes to name objects. And then disappearing the world. And then reappearing the world. It's a long time ago, decades ago now, I made a discovery, or a discovery formed itself, that these eyes are really different. They see a very different world. This one has much better color perception. This one's much clearer, even with correction. And it's a binocular because there's two sensory apparati, and they each have a different picture, and so they create a binocular view that you can see depth. In order to do this kind of experimentation, one needs to have a somewhat quiet mind. Not a super quiet mind, but one at least needs to really know when the mind is wandering. There are many frightening things about the world, right? The one that I find about the most frightening is that most people don't even know their mind wanders. Which means it's difficult to know when one is in an ideology or not. It's difficult to take an emotion as an object, to see an emotion as other than me. And so this very simple practice that we're doing of sitting, coming home to breathing, is really world-changing. And I just got quite distracted. I looked into the computer screen, and I saw myself in this handsome blue shirt. It's good for my eyes, they're blue eyes. But more importantly, this was David Morrison's shirt. David's been gone a year. He was the guy who walked in. I remember when I met him. We'd met a few times, but I remember the moment when we really met. And he was back near the door, and he looked at me and smiled. And there was this. He was large, this huge smile, and then this embrace that was like just incredible. We had his memorial service here just a few weeks ago. There's a plaque out in our now memorial garden outside for him, and a little azalea. But among the things that they did, they had a rack of all his shirts. So a bunch of us got to have David shirts. I really like this one. So I don't want to get drawn too far afield, but I was just suddenly shocked. That's a nice color. So, what can seem like kind of like a kindergarten practice, I'm going to sit here for some period of time, and I am going to do my best to stay present with a chosen primary object. And that primary object can be very easily the breath. It could also be something like this, moving my hand like this. Or the things that Jim was doing, the movements. That's your primary object. Here I am, I'm doing this. And my intention is to be here doing this. And of course I fail a lot because the mind falls into trances. And that's the thing that most people don't know, that the mind is in trances, which means they also don't know that it's possible to wake up from the trance and be here. So we use mindfulness, which is the mind's ability, the human capacity to be awake. Kind of, I always have this image when I talk about this of those giant radio telescopes, these huge things, and they just receive everything. They're giant collectors, and then they refine it down into what the information they want to get out of it. And then there's concentration, which is the focus, and I'm being distracted internally. The first pictures from the Webb telescope are going to be released on the 12th. The 12th? Yeah. We humans are about to see 50 times further into space with clarity than we've ever seen before. There's this beautiful human creation out there, 500,000 miles out on the way to the moon. It's just turned on. But we have the capacity to create this mindful and concentrated field, and we learn a lot on the way to developing that. Right? We learn what the distractions are, what the trance states are. We learn what it's like to be obsessed about something. We learn what it's like to be angry. We learn what it's like to be peaceful. We learn what it's like to be really loving and not loving. And then Bahia walks into the scene and says, I know you're on alms round, but I'm not sure how long I'm going to live. So will you tell me, will you lay out the teachings for me? And the Buddha says, in the seeing, there is only the seeing. In the hearing, there is only the hearing. And it's a funny phrasing, and I don't know, who knows how much of it is just translation. But, oops. Bahia. Since Bahia, there is for you in the seen only the seen, in the heard only the heard, in the sensed only the sensed, in the cognized only the cognized, and you see that there is no thing here. You will therefore see that indeed there is no thing here. As you see there is no thing here, you will see that you are therefore located neither in the world of this, nor in the world of that, nor in any place betwixt the two. This alone is the end of suffering. What does he mean? When we do the experiment of being aware of seeing, just seeing, who is seeing? Is there some one seeing? Or is it really just seeing? And we think of the world as a solid place, as something that endures. And it disappears as soon as we close our eyes. If I can inhabit a mind which can practice, which can experience the world at the level of bare attention, sickness is a totally different experience. Because when sick, I know 2 or 3 of you that have COVID on Zoom. Hope it's going okay. This is for you, this moment. When we're sick, if we have a mind, if we have developed a mind that can take the symptoms as our object of observation, then there's nobody suffering anymore. There's just symptoms. I've had several breakthrough, powerful times. One was in India with kidney stones, but there was another several years ago now, maybe 8 or 9. There was an epidemic, I found out from my doctor. There was an epidemic of the Norovirus. Any of you ever had the Norovirus? They get it on, I'm not sure. It's big on cruise lines and hospitals get it. And anyway, I got it, and it was distended stomach, a lot of pain in the stomach, and diarrhea. I didn't get the vomiting, which I'm glad of, but it really hurts. And it came on a Monday morning, and I got to cancel all my work. I called the doc, and they said, it's the norovirus, you get classic symptoms. It will be fine, but it's going to be really, really unpleasant. And so I realized, I have a couple of days of meditation ahead of me. I'm having a retreat. And so I lay on the couch, and I became not a person with norovirus. I became an awareness of these very intense, painful symptoms that, importantly, were not dangerous. The chance, it wasn't an appendicitis, it wasn't something bad, it was just something really unpleasant. And the suffering went like that. Because the suffering comes from, oh no, poor me, I don't want to have this. We create a self that is in opposition to reality. And we do that all the time. We create a self that wants a particular pleasant experience, or we create a self, or it creates itself that wants to not have a particular experience. And so this, in a way, ridiculously simple practice of learning how to train the mind to pay attention to seeing, to hearing, to smelling, to the sensation. Let's try this. Please become aware of the sense of the aliveness in the baby finger of your left hand. Now, is that not a trip? That you can do that? How can you do that? Or please find the place in your body which at this moment is the most painful. It's not totally true, but for the older people in the room, you'll have more choices, I'm discovering. There's more options. But even I remember when I was young, it always hurt. My body always hurt. Why else would I have smoked so much weed other than to get away from some of that? So, if we learn to pay attention, as Bahia did, to come to the sense doors, seeing. When we do that and become concentrated in that, actually everything else ceases to exist. There's just seeing. Maybe for just a moment, but as concentration develops, it can become really quite potent. There's a teaching, it's the core of the Buddhist teaching. My second teacher, actually. My first teacher was a man named Goenka in India, but my second teacher was a fellow named Sujata, he was in San Francisco area. And I did several long retreats, at least a month. One was 2 months, of 16 hours a day of sitting and walking meditation. Very intensive Burmese model. Extreme, actually. And I would meet with him every day, and he would always start the same way in my interview. What are you learning today about anicca, dukkha, anatta? What are you learning today about impermanence, suffering or unsatisfactoriness? And this third one, which is anatta, which literally translates as no soul, not soul. And not self. And it's the hardest, for many people, it's really the hardest concept. And actually, Ajahn Chah said, don't think about anatta. It'll blow up your brain. It'll blow up your head. So we can think about it. We'll never think our way out of that one. However, what if there's a very simple practice that is based in that changes the experience of life? And this bare attention in the seeing only the seen is that. We may not recognize that this is, that in a moment of just seeing, there's no one seeing. The someone is added afterwards. We're always adding this someone. In fact, what's it called? Sakyaditi, wrong view. Our problem is that we have a wrong view. Instead of being a living process that is arising and passing away, we have this little voice going, I, me, mine, I, me, mine. These are my emotions, this is my feeling, this is my opinion, this is I, me, mine. And what awakening means is that stops. Nothing else has to change. It's just that story, the storyline stops. And we can think, well, how will I ever get there? Well, we're there every time we're just with what's here. So, evaluative thought, not bad for as thick-headed as you are. It's coming along. But there's another piece. Is this making sense? Yeah? Emotions. Aren't emotions grand? I feel so great. Yeah, I feel great. Oh, I feel terrible. Emotions are really essential. I mean, they've been necessary for our survival. We've needed to be able to fly into a high-powered rage in order to survive in all these millions of years of evolution. We've needed, it's like, the twig snaps and we need to be able to go, and also, although this whole thing that we have about trauma, it's been very important. The trauma response is really important, that if we didn't remember something bad happening, then we wouldn't be alert to its potential happening again. The problem is that we become so hypersensitized that we can't see reality at all. We're always seeing the past. And we do this practice, and it's so deceptively simple. We sit in meditation, and we have the intention to be with the breath, but then we can't because we're feeling so sad or so irritated or so angry or so, and the mind is going on and on about blaming someone or blaming ourselves. It's doing all this stuff. Well, we do this again, ridiculously simple practice, and it turns out that because we can be aware of breathing in and breathing out rather precisely, actually, rather fully, deeply, intimately, the emotional states that arise become somehow observable as emotional states that exist. In a way they exist as objects. They exist as phenomena that can be observed. Now, if something can be observed, it's not me, is it? Right? If that which I experience is to be I, can observe, wow, this is irritability. Oh, can I remember that? Asterisk, come back. A couple of weeks ago, coming down out of COVID, the worst of COVID, I was taking the antiviral, I forget what it is, Paxlovid, I guess it is, 2 antivirals, powerful drug. I think it helped a lot. However, I think it interacted with one of my blood pressure medications. And when I went and looked, it was like, don't mix these two. But on a Saturday morning, 2 weeks ago, yesterday, I guess, I took the Paxlovid, I fell into this dark depression. Oh man, it was the pits. And I've done a lot of depression in my life. And it was so convincing. And I was at home with Jennifer, and all the things that are wrong in my relationship with Jennifer, that normally I could say, well, yeah, okay, you don't get everything you want. They became so real. And all the things that were wrong with my life and PIMC and Jim Dalton and everybody. And I was working, the neurotic person was working hard to start a fight with Jennifer. But something wise said, I think you're in quite a state, Mr. Beatty. You're in a very bad state. And I said to Jennifer, and this was a brilliant move. There's many times in my life I sure wish I could have done this in my first marriage. I didn't have the capacity. That I said to her, I am not fit for a human relationship at this point. And I'm going to excuse myself. And my little broadcast studio has a little meditation spot. I went out and I sat for at least an hour and a half or 2. And I could hardly find my breath. This mood was just so. However, I persisted. I mean, nothing else was going to do anything. And then it was one of those instances where it somehow cracked and it began to come open, and it became so obvious it was a state. It was not personal. It was, in this case, it was drug-induced, I think. It was a state. And the freedom that we have wave of sadness. The terrible lack of freedom that we have when we can't observe emotions as emotions is what destroys marriages, cultures, civilizations. Just imagine how wonderful it would be if Vladimir Putin, that tragic human being, could wake up, or if we could affect him, maybe with our loving kindness meditation, if we could affect him and he could realize, this whole dream, this whole fantasy of the Russian Empire, it's a fantasy. I don't have to have that to be happy. I have my children. I have my life. I don't have to push on into this madness. Now, of course, he's just one very dramatic person. But imagine if we could all be aware when we're having an emotion, when there's an emotion, it's just an emotion, right? That's what so Bahia gets it. And we can get it too. In any time we pause long enough to notice, seeing, hearing, emotion. What's my emotional tone? What is the emotional tone? Because in those moments, there's no self. There's not someone who's having the emotion. There's the experience of the emotion. So I want to stop there. I need to stop there. I realize time is flit. But is there, might just open just, is there one comment or question, maybe two, in the group on this crucial topic? Yeah. Nick, could you run this back to the person in the back? Test 1, 2, 1, 2. There we go. Thank you, sir. Please say your name too, and maybe take off your mask so we can understand you.
Hi, Robert. Hi, everyone. It's Allison. Robert wrote a really good book, by the way. I'm not trying to plug his book, but it's very helpful. And I've become much more familiar with the 5 hindrances, so thank you. I'm trying to understand why we recognize hindrances and trances separately.
Uh-huh.
Like, trance feels like a hindrance to me, too.
It's a synonym.
Oh, great. Okay. That was my question. It was just, why are they separate? So trance of fear or trance of remembering, like intrusive thoughts, it could still just be like, I have aversion to this, or I feel doubt about this. Or,
yes.
Okay. That was it.
We can be awake, which is a very simple state, right? I'm present. Breathing in, breathing out. Or there are dozens of trance states the 5 hindrances are just the popular, they're like the Hollywood actors, the very famous ones that we all have. I want it, I don't want it, I don't want it. And restless, agitated, worried, and sloth and torpor, dullness, and doubt. It's like, what am I doing? Those are the 5 biggies, but how about depression? Or fear, or rage, or the madness of falling in love. These are all trance states.
And so is really the only activity in meditation to notice the fear. If I'm sitting and I'm breathing, I'm focusing on breath as my meditation object, I feel fear, or I observe fear, or I observe a memory, intrusive memory, just notice it and go back to the meditation object, the breath or the
This is
hearing.
the central paradigm and a crucial thing to know. I'm sitting in meditation and a quote distraction arises. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Wait. This is kind of repetitive or persistent. Thank you, dear breath. I am going to pay attention to this, quote, distraction as though it was the most important thing in the world. I'm depressed. I'm going to sit here. And what are the symptoms of depression? Oh, there's that heaviness of head and this sense of revulsion, whatever it is. That's what I did that Saturday morning. I went to my meditation spot where I'm strongest, and in a way, I wasn't wallowing in depression because there was mindfulness. But I turned toward that pain consciously and felt it fully, which is the last thing we want to do. We want to escape. We don't want to, if you've got post-surgery pain, there's some serious pain and the medication's only doing part of the job, and or maybe, I've worked with people with late-stage cancer, with bones exploding, and it's possible to take awareness and instead of avoiding that back, relax and turn toward it and go into it and into it and into it, and lo and behold, the suffering diminishes to the point of extinction through turning toward it. So that's a very helpful question. Notice it, let it go. Notice it, let it go. But then when it won't go, we turn toward it. I've toyed with the idea, it always seems a little too abstract, but to offer a workshop sometime, it won't leave till you love it. Love it meaning allow there to be room for the experience. Thanks, Allison. Any other comment or question before we close? Sorry, I can't take comments or questions on Zoom. I don't have the help I would need. seeing. As you're driving home, if you're walking, just do walking meditation. But if you're driving home, do this with me. Seeing, hearing, sitting, touching. Foot touches the floor, hand, 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 hand. Seeing, hearing, sitting, touching. It's a great way to drive. Thank you to Ruth Dennison for that one. Actually, that's not true. Tangpulu Sayadaw. I went to Burma very briefly a long time ago, and I was there 5 days, 6 days. Day one, and I was used to mindfulness of breathing, and he said, for day one, your practice is seeing, all day. Seeing, 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 seeing. Seeing lost, seeing lost. Hearing from 4:30 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. Hearing. Sitting, posture, sitting. Touching. All day. And then day 5 was seeing, hearing, sitting, touching. Seeing, hearing, sitting, touching. And it's this coming into the present moment in the single sense door, which then sets us free. Strange, isn't it? And not something to be believed, something to be tried. And my guess is if you try it, you'll discover that it's really quite remarkable. All right. I'd like to form a big circle, but let's not. Let's instead hold our own hands. We could have one hand say to the other, I love you, and put your name at the end. I love you, dear hand. My hands, Robert Beatty's hands, have gotten old. I had a brother-in-law 20 years ago or so who was older than me. Do this, he took the skin of his back, the back of his hand. And it's like, notice it's not very elastic. But think of what these hands do for you and have done your whole life. What a privilege to have hands. I love you. And then please take a moment to just look around the room. Make eye contact. On Zoom, well, those of you that have your cameras on, you can take a look at each other. Seeing, but there's a person here too. If you were, what blessing would you really like to offer to people? We're not going to do it out loud, but it's such a fine practice. It's like, I sure hope you're healthy. Or may your practice lead to full awakening. Or, gosh, I hope you don't have any financial worries. Or, as the culture struggles so much and there's so much violence, I hope you're never involved in it. It's just such a nice thing to do, I hope your relationship goes well, and all your relationships. And I hope your kids will remember to text you. And so let us close, friends, with that ancient chant. I learned it from Ruth Dennison, maybe from Goenka. The words are Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. And they mean, may all beings receive all blessings. The greatest blessing, of course, is the Dharma and freedom. So we'll do it 3 times, please. And those of you that are on Zoom, if you want to unmute, you can. Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Well, that was nice. I always think it's the PIMC Tabernacle Choir. We have such harmonies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. There we go. Oh, put it on mute. So, friends, please help by putting the chairs away and the zafus away. Thank you for coming. Oh, the Dana basket. I should remember. On the way out, on the left, there's a wood box that would be happy to receive your offerings. And otherwise, go online. Hello, Allison. Come back. Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for that question. It was a beauty.
Yeah, no. I also am just about to finish Marshall Rosenberg.
Oh, not